Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. on October 9th, 2023, and I'd like to call the City Council meeting to order. I'd like to invite Pastor Deborah Timmons from Asbury Church forward to give the invocation.
Let us pray. Oh, gracious God, we are so thankful that we are gathered here today. Thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Bless this meeting, bless the agenda, bless, oh God, the council members and the members of this great city of Madison. Bless us all, oh Lord. Individually and collectively we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call, please.
Mayor Finley. Councilmember Robleski. Here. Councilmember Spears. Councilmember Powell.
Here.
Councilmember Shaw.
Here. Council
President Bartlett.
Here.
Councilmember Denzine.
Here.
Councilmember Seifert.
Here.
And are there any amendments to the agenda this evening?
It's my understanding that we do not have any amendments.
Congratulations. And the agenda is approved. Next, we will go to the approval of minutes. A number 2023-10-WS dated September 19th, 2023.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski. Aye. Councilmember Spears. Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye. I'm also voting aye.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Council President Bartlett.
And the motion passes. Next, minutes number 2023-18-RG dated September 25th, 2023.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote?
Councilmember Powell.
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears. Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye. And the motion passes. We do not have any presentations and awards this evening, so we will move to public comments. Public comments for each person lasts 3 minutes. Please state your name and your district. We do have one item for public hearing later, so I'd ask that you reserve your comments on that public hearing till that point in the meeting. We're going to begin with those who turned in their names for comments, and I'm going to begin with Ron Johnson.
Thank you. My name is Ron Johnson. I live at 116 Sturgeon Street, Madison, Alabama. I'd like to speak in opposition to the ordinance that's coming up for a first reading. It's number 2023-164, amending the ground regulations for cleaning, restoration, headstone in the City of Madison municipal cemeteries. In December of 2022, the cemetery committee contacted me and told me I had to stop doing the headstone repairs that I was doing on the cemetery south of Mill Road. They told me that I needed to get permission from the Alabama Historic Commission, AHC. They gave me a copy of this multi-page form that they said that I need to fill out and get permission. Now this is dated 1975. This is their current publication.
Mr. Johnson, could you speak into the mic? I'm having a little difficulty hearing you. Thank you.
Sorry. I see. Okay, so I got this packet to be filled out. It's 32 pages, 32 lines long, and I mentioned this to my historic friends, and John Rankin gave me a copy of the state law saying that the 2007-408 is the Alabama Law Act that we use to do the cemetery, and it gives us city authority to manage these cemeteries. I went to Attorney Matthew Balch, and he said that was the current state law. So I thought, where was the conflict? So I called Leanne Waller-Trupp, the cemetery program coordinator. Her name is at the bottom of this form. So I gave her a call. And I said, do we have to go to the AHC to get permission and fill out the forms? And she said, no. The state law gives the city the authority to manage and regulate the cemeteries on their own. We don't have to go back to them. So, but she did recommend that the city does manage these cemeteries, so people just don't go in, you know, she said willy-nilly, that's her words. And I said, okay, so I wonder, why would the city of Madison want to give up the authority to the state that the state has already granted us? Passage of that ordinance, I read the ordinance, it would shut down people like John Rankin and myself, who have been doing a lot of work in the cemetery as far as headstone repairs. So I think it's a bad idea. Since 2004, I've been doing headstone. I've been leading up the effort with the Madison Historic Society that's been funding and providing people to help restore these headstones. And I've done about, I've led about 18 of them. I keep saying I did. The Historic Society did it. We straightened a dozen or so obelisks, and we've been...
Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry, but you're out of time. I know it goes really fast, but thank you for your comments tonight.
Thank you.
The next person who's turned their name in is Jenny Paris.
Thank you. City Council President and the rest of the City Council. My name is Jenny Paris, and I live on Lansdowne Drive in the Heritage Plantation subdivision. I'm in District 2. Our family has been residents of Madison City for almost 25 years. Our children, both of our children, attended Madison City schools, starting kindergarten at Heritage Elementary and graduating from James Clemens High School. After completing high school, our son Ryan went to earn a degree in criminal justice. His goal after graduating college was to come back and serve the community where he grew up. His reason? To give back to the community that had given him so much. He proudly serves the residents of Madison City as a police officer, as the SRO at James Clemens High School, and a member of the SWAT team. I come tonight to express my concerns as a resident and a mother. I know the job you have is a difficult one, especially for the needs of the growing city. I also believe that it's of vital importance to provide for those that serve and protect our community. I ask for your help in seeking ways that the members of the Madison SWAT team have an armored vehicle that provides protection when arriving on scene instead of the back of an F-250. All first responders have difficult jobs protecting us. Let us do all that we can to provide what they need to keep them safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parrish. The next person who's turned in a card is Bernadette Mayer.
Good evening, Teddy. You need to have your mic down too, because when you commented to him, we couldn't hear you either. So the mics are a very important thing to use. Running out of time because we're only limited to 3 minutes. So there you go. I'm going to pick up from some of the comments I was going to make at the last council meeting. Okay, because I ran out of time. Okay, I'm concerned about budgeting more involvement of city council during the year, and also to provide for better budgeting, and also better and more productive communication between mayor and city council, and those two items all need to be timely. Okay, so an example is the Hexagon building that I talked about at the last meeting, and how, it's not going to be available or able to be used for a fire station. Okay, so it's also been revealed in recent meetings that, you know, the mayor even commented that he had inflated budget requests in several areas, and some budgets were padded. I do not expect this out of seasoned mayor and seasoned city council members. Many of you have been on the council for, seven and a half years, whatever. Seems clear to me that this last year's initial budget was way off by the mid-year budget review. Oversight should have been kind of ongoing, and the mid-year review was really haphazard, kind of patch through, get through the rest of the year without running out of money. and there was really wide gaps on the numbers, and even the numbers that I was able to see as a member of the public. Okay, city council and mayor should have more communication, and mayor needs to check on decisions that should have council input as well as opportunities for public input. Recent items have clearly had the mayor out of step on decisions made and then retracted. Number of citizens at the last council meeting was a result of limited thought and decision-making by Mayor Finley and not in talking, the Christmas parade routing with the rest of you. Okay. So, and city council personnel should be able to be provided and have more insight and oversight in the various areas which you all are on that thing. And I'm going to be running out of meeting minutes, but the rest of my comments are just going to have to wait for another city council meeting. But I'm just very disappointed that we are only limited to the 3 minutes, and many times we have to speak before information is provided, whereas there's not information provided before the meeting on the attachments or whatever that come to being voted on. So I just feel like we're out of step. Thank you.
The next comment card is from John Rankin.
Okay, I'm John Rankin. I live at 103 Madison Avenue in the heart of Madison. Been there for about 36 years. But when I was about 30 years ago, I got a permanent medical disability, and that gave me time to pursue my lifetime passion of learning history. And I loved learning the history of this town. So dug in, I found a lot of things. And I've really enjoyed my years of being medically disabled. But anyhow, I'm puzzled a little bit by what's the problem that's affecting Ron Johnson. Where'd it come from? I don't see a problem. It's worked that way before I got here with Percy Keel. He took care of the cemetery. Ron's doing a superb job, better than anybody I've ever seen. And I got appointed by Dale Strong to head up as a charter member of the Madison County Cemetery Rehab Committee. And I tried to tell them when they started drifting into the AHC control, don't do it. It's nothing but problems. I've worked with people in cemeteries for a long time, over 300 in Madison County that I've done. I photograph all the tombstones. And I've got all those photographs online, or they're going online soon, so everybody can see them. But anyhow, since I don't know the problem, I hope you do. I don't think there's one to be solved. Leave it alone. It's been working better than normal, and it saves the city a lot of money. Ron works for free for the city, and the Historical Society pays for all the materials. I do know that everywhere I've ever been that anything like AHC gets in control, they try to exert more control than they should, because there's nothing but problems. The state overturned that because they had so many complaints. So the 2007 cemetery law that was passed and signed, I think it was either Hunt or Riley, I forget. At my age, I have to forget everything, I think. But anyhow, that law guarantees right of access for any cemetery in the state to anybody, whether a citizen of the state or not, for the purposes of visiting an ancestor's grave or a family member's grave, or for maintenance, or for historical research. So I've had free access to all cemeteries, and I think Ron would too, and likewise for maintenance. The state guarantees it. That's basically all I had to say. That I think you need to think carefully about what you're doing. The city incurs more cost if you get rid of Ron, and he's done more than I have, and he's much better at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rankin. I have a comment card from Jocelyn Brower, but it seems like all the comments have to do with redistricting. Is that correct, Ms. Brower? Do you want to reserve your comments for that? Okay, is there anyone else in the Chambers who would like to speak to the council, please state your name and your district.
Margie Daly, Karen's district. I'd like to once again mention the new LED lights that are insufficient in lighting the older neighborhoods because the poles are too far apart, the arms are too short, and the radius of the light does not work. It's causing more motor vehicle accidents and problems in our neighborhood. You can't see at night. It's just going to cause more, fatalities in the end. The second thing is I see Finance Committee report on here. I attended the Finance Committee. It did not happen, so how can we have a report if the public was not invited to sit in on the Finance Committee? There was not a quorum. So 2023, 329, there was no committee meeting. So I don't know how you can put that on the agenda. Now, I've done Freedom of Information requests. One was for redevelopment areas. The response was Madison City has 0 redevelopment areas. Now, we all know that's not true. So I don't know why it's such a problem. There's no transparency anymore in this city. Freedom of Information requests are legal. And to say there's no redevelopment is unbelievable. Because I know downtown, Madison, and I think that Avenue and maybe the shanty shacks. Okay, so let's talk about the shanty shacks. They have a big now leasing sign, but yet they want to trespass people off the property. It's either open or it's not. I understand they may be running out of money because they had concrete liens in the probate court. You could look it up online, and they just paid them last week. So I don't know, maybe they're running out of money. Fire safety. Everything on the Hexagon building, I went over it. I now know it's only half a building that we purchased for the $6 million in November. Everything says it's for a fire station and police station, for safety for the citizens. You pass that on all the paperwork. We were told by Chief Bailey the response time was fine for the Hexagon building. Now all of a sudden it doesn't meet response time, so now it's going to be used for pickleball and softball for the few. Even if 1,000 people in the city use it, that's only 2% of the population. So, you told us it was fire and safety. We passed ordinances. We passed reports. They all say fire and police station. We're not getting that. It's just very disappointing with this council, especially about those LED lights. It has to be corrected. You can't make our neighborhoods unsafe just because we're older neighborhoods. I mean, as it is, we have roads that haven't been paved in 30 years. 30 years. And yet, we're doing all kinds of stuff in town Madison, all kinds of stuff over here.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. Time is up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Please come forward.
Hi, I'm Debbie Evercash, a proud member of District 5, and I just wanted to thank you all. I am far from a subject matter expert on cemeteries, but these two gentlemen are, and I'll tell you they put their heart and soul into this. The Historic Society just wanted you all to know that there is an option on the table other than turning the repair and upkeep of our historic cemetery over to Montgomery. There is another option. We would love to come to you all with paperwork that we have come up with that can help find the proper department for you all to let us report to. We want to report to somebody. We're happy to report to somebody. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to point you to Ron and John because, again, I am not that person, but I'm very proud of the work that these two gentlemen have led in that historic cemetery. That being said, whatever decision you all make, we will honor and we will respect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Evercash.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Seeing none, we will close public comments and move to the consent agenda and Finance Committee reports.
The Finance Committee reviewed all the periodic bills to be paid and find everything to be in order.
We can't hear you. You got to talk into the mic.
Yes, ma'am. With that, I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I need quiet in the chambers or you're going to be excused. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Some of us just aren't as loud as others.
Just want to maybe mention the donation from MVP.
Yes, do you want to cover that, or do you want me to?
It's a big one.
So, MVP has donated, $15,832 on behalf of the Rotary Club, for the Home Place Park project. And from what I understand, that's been a joint effort, with different, with MVP kind of leading the charge on collecting money for the Home Place Park. And I think Rotary was going to give $50,000 total.
Mm-hmm.
So this was one of their first installments.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd just like to thank them for that.
Okay, thank you.
Were there meetings held, just to answer the questions, for Finance Committee?
There wasn't. I was out of town two
We
weeks
review
these ahead of time. We called
not a
department.
meeting, it's a review.
Okay, I just didn't know, do you
Yeah, it's-
usually have a meeting, is it usually discussed?
It's the same thing we've done, I don't know, for as long as we've been a city. The Finance Committee reviews these, and that's what he said, that we reviewed them, and I seconded that we reviewed them.
That's right.
Roger sends those out, we review them. It's basically paying the bills is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we can stop paying the bills and we don't get anything.
And I think Mrs. Spears is out of town because she's attending that TARCOG conference, the state conference, so she was not able to attend. Okay, are we ready for a vote?
Councilmember Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Council President Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Roblesky,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears, Councilmember Denzine, Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
And the motion passes. Presentations and reports beginning with District 1.
Yes, well, I'll start with what probably the mayor would say, and just want to thank everyone for Saturday and really the preparation even before Saturday. We know it's a long year for the Madison Street Festival. We're so grateful for all the hours and time and effort our wonderful volunteers that are on the committee put into really the best event in Madison annually. Want to definitely give a shout out to HEMC, who was present in case we needed them, Madison Fire and Rescue, MPD, and really the unsung heroes, I think, of our city public works. I mean, they were there at dark 30, putting up barriers and barrels and just making for a wonderful, safe event. We don't have the final numbers in yet, but it was a beautiful day, great way to kick off fall, and just want to thank everyone that helped to make this happen. There are not a lot of communities anymore that can put together an event of this size and essentially shut down downtown, and didn't downtown just show out. I mean, it was just a great day, and definitely the highlight for me personally every year of going and just seeing old friends. So I know the other council members will probably address that as well. The only other announcement I have is tomorrow night at 6:30, the Friends of the Library will be meeting. If you'd like to get involved, if you have a passion for the library, we do a lot for their children's program. We're always looking for volunteers and would love to see you there. The meeting is at the library in the program room. And that's all I have.
Thank you. District 3?
I too would like to thank everybody that was involved, the volunteers. Ms. Denzing, I'd like to thank you for your work on that committee. Ms. Overcash, I mean, you know, there's a lot of people in this room, and there's a lot of people that make that happen. And honestly, it worked really well. The only thing I had to do was go stand down in the city tent and kind of pass out things and give them numbers where they could call people. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that you guys are holding that downtown, because that allows us to get, you know, people downtown and get to see our beautiful downtown. We've spent a lot of money down there, and I hope we can continue to do that. Public Works, police, fire, I mean, everybody's involved, and again, thank you. The other thing I'd like to address real quick, and I'll address it a little bit later on, but I do want to talk about the cemetery and the headstones. I do live in the downtown district. I know how hard it is to get things done and you know, restored and that kind of thing. And as our homes get older, as our cemeteries get older, as things get older, people tend to forget about them. And anytime that you have a group of volunteers that do something, you know, the harder we make it to do that, they don't want to do that. So eventually, you know, those things don't get taken care of. So I think, you know, we'll have a first reading. I'll talk about it later, but I think, you know, kind of our options will be simply, you know, we can put more stringent things on there, send it down to the state and have it come back. And, I mean, you know, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Rankin can speak about it, but more than likely, they're just not going to fill the paperwork out and not do it. So I think if we do that, we need to come up with a solution of who is going to do that. So that's all I've really got about that.
Thank you. District 4.
No new business.
District 6.
I'll just add to everyone else how wonderful the Madison Street Festival was. If you didn't go, you missed a great day. The community just comes together, and it was such a happy, I didn't see a grumpy face all day. It was just all a good time for everybody, and it was great that the community can come together like they do. We've got the police and the fire, and we have the public works. They all did a wonderful job. But then the community came, and there were so many volunteers in the community level that also work. And this committee, it does work a full year to put this on. There are so many moving pieces, so I really want to thank everybody that was on that committee. You all did an absolutely wonderful job, and thank you. I can't go on enough how wonderful it is that we have this activity within our city and how we can come together. There was no need for the police to get involved in anything. There was no big protest. We all just come together like a happy family, and I think that is great. It's one of the best virtues we have of this city. So thanks to everyone that was involved. And I'll save my comments on the cemetery till later, but thank you all for supporting the city, and it was great. Thank you.
Thank you. District 7.
No new business.
Okay, I have one item, resolution number 2023-327-R, authorizing funding of a Santa for our downtown Christmas event, not to exceed $250.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second by Powell. Any discussion?
I was just going to say, can we put this in the budget since it's an annual event, either under council special projects, so that they know when they plan that they're guaranteed to have this and they don't have to come annually for it? Can we guarantee Santa every year?
I think we have been.
I know, but just putting it in the budget, and that way we don't have to go through.
Well, we can certainly ask finance.
Okay, well, we'll ask Roger if we can have
Yes.
Santa. Okay, thank you.
I just want to see somebody vote against Santa, that's all.
You're going to make us vote on it every
I
year.
dare you.
Any other comments? Ready for a vote?
Councilmember Robleski. Aye. Councilmember Powell.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears. Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
And the motion passes. I have one announcement. We have a work session Wednesday, October 18th, this time starting at 6:30 p.m. because of a conflict that the mayor has earlier in the afternoon. And we're going to be discussing fire safety, the Hexagon building, other opportunities out in that area. And then we're also going to talk about the proposed hands-free ordinance that Councilmember Robleski wanted to discuss, as well as, I think, an animal shelter.
Yes, please.
So those are the items so far that we have on the agenda, but if there are others that you want to add, let me know. But we will host that here in Council Chambers on October 18th. Let's see, and that's all I have. Next, we've got board and committee appointments, and we have the zoning board. Is that you?
I think that is me.
Okay.
At one time it was going to be Ms. Spears, but anyway, it's a supernumerary, I never get that word right, 2 position for zoning board and adjustments appeals, Damian Bianco.
Okay, are there any other nominations besides Damian Bianca for supernumerary 2?
I dare you say it twice.
Supernumerary
You just say it once.
Huh?
I tell you, you just say it once.
Seeing none,
It's uncalled for.
Damian Bianca is appointed by acclamation to the Zoning Board of Adjustment and Appeals. All right, next, public hearings. We have one public hearing item this evening on the redistricting plan to establish new council district boundaries. And you want to go ahead and do the presentation first, and then we'll open up for comments?
I'm Mike Slaughter with Slaughter and Associates here to put on the presentation regarding the redistricting. Mary Beth, you have that? First of all, may I proceed?
Yes.
First of all, I would like to mention just 2 or 3 things. One, we have a sign-in sheet as you enter the door there on the left on the table. We would like for everyone that's in attendance to sign in, so we will have record. Since this is a legal public hearing, it's not just a regular public meeting or council meeting. We're actually in a legally required public hearing. We'd like to have record of everyone's attendance, so we would appreciate y'all signing in. Also, I have a couple of handouts that are out in the foyer by the metal detector. There's a little table out there. One of them is actually from justice.gov regarding redistricting information, and I cover most of that in the PowerPoint presentation, but you also have an official copy out there. Also located in the foyer, I have the demographic data that I'm going to go over for both the benchmark plan as well as the Plan 3. That is out for the public in the foyer as well. And that next, I'm going to proceed into the PowerPoint presentation unless there's any questions at this point.
Go ahead.
If none. First, I'd like to mention before I start that, the process we've gone through is we actually had a public meeting on July 17th where we had presented the benchmark plan, and there may have been maybe a Plan 1 or 2 at that time. On August 14th, we actually had a work session where I brought my planner as well as the computer and our GIS database, and went through a work session with the City Council. As a matter of fact, it was a very productive work session, and ultimately came up with Redistricting Plan 3, which the public hearing will be on tonight. And then, of course, tonight we're holding the required public hearing. Regarding the redistricting facts, what is equal distribution? And I don't normally like to read off of a PowerPoint presentation, but the first 3 bullets are pretty important. The United States Constitution, Department of Justice require equal distribution of total population among the voting or election districts. Equal distribution applies to the one person, one vote principle. So we have a pretty much balanced population in each election district. The equal distribution is considered to be a total population deviation of 10% or less between the smallest and largest populated voting districts as compared to the ideal. And here, and I'll get into the numbers, but just to give you some numbers up front, there's the population official census 2020 for the city of Madison is 56,970. You divide that by 7 election districts, and we have a population of 8,139, being the ideal population in each district. Well, you're not going to get it right on that ideal, so we have a threshold that if we come under a 10% deviation, you don't want it to be more than 5% above that 8,139 or 5% below that 8,139. So the highest populated election district would be approximately 8,540. The smallest would be 7,735. And so if you exceed that 10%, then you're going to need to redistrict, and I will get into the numbers that show the city of Madison did exceed that, and then we have addressed that with the Plan 3. And as mentioned, you can't have a greater overall deviation of more than 10%. The 5 steps in the redistricting process is determine if redistricting is necessary, which is our benchmark plan, provide public awareness and seek public input, develop new plans, provide for public review and input, hold a public hearing, which is we're here for step 5, adoption, and then final implementation, update the voter rolls and have the voter rolls ready for the next election that rolls around in 2025. Next, the criteria for developing the redistricting plans. The required the required standards as of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which is, we have a handout out front from justice.gov. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is a nationwide prohibition against voting practices and procedures, including redistricting plans that discriminate on the basis of race, color, or membership in a language minority group. It prohibits not only election-related practices and procedures that are intended to be racially discriminatory, but also those that are shown to have a racially discriminatory result. And that comes right out of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Of course, additional standards that we employ, we certainly want to incorporate public input and concerns, avoid redistricting an elected official out of their district, effectuate the least amount of change if possible, avoid, if possible, moving groups of strong constituency out of a particular district. District boundaries have lines of visible demarcation, avoid where possible splitting census block, and give consideration to polling places and precincts if applicable. On page 5, the City of Madison population change, we can see that there's been significant change from 2010 to 2020, so it's really not surprising that our election districts were out of balance from the one person, one vote principle. We went from 42,938 to 56,933 as the official census, or 32.6% increase. We made some slight modifications to where the Census Bureau was just a little bit off from the official boundary of the City of Madison. It wasn't a significant number, but we have a population of 56,970 is what we're redistricting, is our redistricting number. Also on the racial composition, you can see the change between 2010 and 2020. In the handouts that we have out front, we have this data in there. It's just not in the pie chart graphical form, but we have all of the census racial composition data in there as well. So you can see that's broken down by white, black, and other races. Our benchmark plan, that's where we take our current election districts that were prepared based on the 2010 decennial census. As a matter of fact, I worked with the City of Madison regarding for the 2010 as well as going on back to 2020. So I've been standing up here a while, and I certainly appreciate that opportunity. So the ones we prepared back in 2010, we bring the 2020 census data in by block. And we're able to determine by crunching the numbers, adding them up, the population in each election district, as we have here the total population, we have the ideal, and we calculate the variance. We can see that's highlighted there, we can see all of the variances when you look at the percentages. All election districts, with exception of District 7, exceed the 5%, because you could have 5% above, 5% below, which would give us a total of 10%. So we want to make sure no election district exceeds 5% above or below. District 7 was the only one that slightly came in under the 5%. All other districts were above that 5%, and you can see District 2 and District 5 were the ones that were most over and under. You can see graphically here where you can see that the percentages, and as compared to the ideal, with District 2 being 46.3% over, District 5 being 24.5% under, and we've also given you the others as well that would need to be adjusted. And quickly I can go through, we have this information broken down by racial composition as well as total population for District 1. And again, all of this is in the table that we have a handout for. It's just not graphically depicted, but all of it's in the table. District 2, you can see, exceeds it. District 3, District 4, District 5, District 6, District 7 is the one that comes in under the 5%. And then we have a map. One thing I'd like to mention, we also have the very same maps that I have up front for the council members in the back, if you want to review those. Our benchmark plan, we have broken down, we have the districts outlined in red, and then a different color shading for each election district. So you can see that. When we make revisions and come up with Plan 3, we hold the red line and move the shading. So you can see if the shading color causes a red line, that's where we make some changes. It's moved from one district to another. So if you see a shading across a red line on the Plan 3, that's where some changes have been made. On the benchmark plan, the shading and the red line match perfectly. So that's where you can highlight where the changes have occurred. And so, just to sum it up, before we go to the new plan, the total deviation for our benchmark plan was 70.8%. So we had a little work to do there. We needed to have that number 10% or less. And then that's where we went into the process of preparing Plan 1. We had a Plan 2, and then ultimately between those two, we came up with a Plan 3 that the City Council, I would say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you agreed with it. Some of you maybe more than others. But it's one that ultimately the council directed us to move forward with. And that's sort of how it is, as you know, in life in general. There's some give and take. And that's what we went through with the City Council, and I appreciate working with you on that. So once we got determined what we need to do on the benchmark plan, is where we went through that process I just described, and we came up with the Plan 3. And again, this table is out front, so you have all of the data and information, and you can see where we took the benchmark plan deviation from 70.7% to 9.4%. You can see that District 3 was a minus 4.5%, District 5 was a 4.9%, which total those up to a 9.4%. This bar chart looks a lot better than the one from the benchmark plan. The one for the benchmark plan was up and down all the way across, and basically was in violation of the one person, one vote principle. To no one's fault. That's just when you have a lot of growth, you can have that imbalance occur. And so you can see that the two that are the largest or smallest, District 5 being 4.9% over, District 3 4.5% under, gives us our 9.4. Everything else is in balance as well, under that 5%. Again, I have the information with the racial composition as well as the total population and the percent over and under for each council district, District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4, District 5, District 6, and District 7. Again, as I was mentioning earlier, wherever we would have a shading across the red line, we also have in red the total population of that change, the racial composition, the total white, black, and other. Not on the total population, but we break it down with white, black, and others. So you can see if the shading crosses the line, we actually give you the information on the map so you will know what that population was that was shifted from one election district to another. And this is the Plan 3 map, which we have up front, also have in the back for the public to review. And with that, Madam President, I'll be glad to turn the public hearing back over to you and answer any questions you all may have at this time.
Council, do you have any questions of him before we open the public hearing? Anyone? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to open the public hearing. Each member of the public gets to speak for 5 minutes. You need to state your name and your district. And we're going to begin with Jocelyn Brewer, who turned in her comment card. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Jocelyn Brower. I'm in Taylor's Crossing subdivision, and on this latest map, I'm currently District 4. On this latest map, half of my street has been put into District 1. I went ahead and did a visual overhead of the areas and why our neighborhood should stay together. We have several key points. We are a small HOA community. We only have 45 homes and only 3 streets total. We do share HOA, like I said, and a common clubhouse pool area. Our whole neighborhood is surrounded by wetlands on the southern border, and there is a Russell Branch stream on the east. It flows through and affects our entire neighborhood. We have, it actually goes under our street. On the entire right side of Wesley Clark Boulevard, we have a large concrete culvert behind our homes. The residents are, we are supposed to maintain that. We also have a large concrete culvert on the opposite side of Wesley Clark Boulevard. The culvert continues to the church in front on that west side. We actually had some problems. You'll see we do have a new subdivision coming in on the east side, and they are going to use our drainage. It will filter into our concrete culvert. I know this is a little, it's hard to explain, that's why I tried to give you a nice little visual. In fact, I tried to do a community cleanup too at the church, and all try to help each other keep these culverts clean. So there is some communication there. We also only have one entrance, exit in and out of our neighborhood. That is a source of frustration for us and a reason for us to stay together and all, meet with one city council district member. It is hard enough just being Limestone County and Madison City. We got some neighbors together to try to meet with the Limestone County engineer and ask them questions, with the Madison City engineer and ask them questions. We have issues that unite us. We don't know how this drainage will go. We may have whenever you put in new subdivisions, it affects the drainage on anything nearby, which you are pretty well aware of, knocking on doors and talking to your constituents. And then we share an emergency entrance exit. So there really is no other way in or out of our neighborhood except for the one street. I'm going to be quick here. We already have had multiple sets of engineers and representatives. Like I said, we don't need multiple sets of city representatives as well. It makes it very confusing. I also saw that D1 is still minus 4%, D4 is over, so it wouldn't be any problem to have this one section moved. In addition, I wanted to say the west side will be divided and split 3 ways. I did give you another map. We would love to have 2 majority Limestone County districts. And I have sent previous emails, but I want to introduce a new map that we're proposing by the citizens. I also, since I have a little time left over, thank you for those charts and graphs, but it makes it easy to see. I submitted a map trying to get a district that had more of a minority majority, and it was in District 1. Now I'm seeing District 1, you're actually gaining, that was the one district there was a chance of. And again, we can't have a majority-minority here, but that was the center of our city is a good chance for getting close to that. Now we've got District 1 is actually plus almost 9% whites and minus 8% in the black population.
You're out of time.
Okay, I'd ask if you would take a look at that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing on the redistricting?
Margie Daly, Karen's district, live in Madison 20 years. Okay, so I'm really confused because the last time we did redistricting, we didn't do this here where we introduced the maps, had the public meeting the same day. You know, we were all under the impression we met on 7/17, it was just a public information meeting. Then the next was a work session, which the public has no voice at. So this is the second meeting on the redistricting. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think that the redistricting should be based on the current council districts. This goes into effect in 2025. It has nothing to do with the current council districts. And now we come to find out that one of our council people is jumping ship to go run for the state. So that means his district, which is like right next to another council. I mean, why are we considering the current council district representatives at all if this goes into effect in 2025? It makes absolutely no sense. I also think there's no reason that the west side can't be one district or as close to one district. I mean, I even talked to the mayor a while back about that they'd like to have one polling place on the west side. Now we're going to split it into 3 districts. There'll probably be at least 2 polling places on that. So really, it makes no sense for our population. This is the first time we've had like the major 30% or around about 30% increase in population. So we should divide the city up accordingly. But, you know, I understand. So the 2 things that this map was based on is one person, one vote, and the current council seats. I mean, it doesn't make sense to do that. We should divide the city up where it's most convenient for the people and that the residents are all together in a voting district. You know, you're going to divide a subdivision. I mean, some maps go right through a house. I hope none of these go right through a house, but the current state district goes right through one of the houses on my block. So we're dividing up subdivisions. I think really that the residents of Madison, the taxpayers, deserve a little better at trying to keep us together and not worrying about our own political agenda. As far as the Supreme Court ruling, I too looked at it, and there is a definite possibility to make a minority district, like Jocelyn said, in the middle of town. That would be where you would go for it. We didn't even try. We didn't even try to do that, even though the Supreme Court has ruled. So I don't understand why that wasn't looked at by I really don't. I mean, there's no reason it shouldn't have been looked at. At least give us an example of why we can't do it. You know, but instead, you know, I really object to the fact that it was done only on the current council district, and that the public has not had enough input. I mean, we thought there was going to be just another public meeting. We didn't get another public meeting. What we got is on the council agenda, both the public hearing and passing this thing, because we already know you're going to do what you want, and you're going to pass it. And I really don't, I think that it's a shame that you discount the residents and the voters of Madison to nothing. You don't consider us. You don't consider keeping 45 houses and you got to break it up? You got to be kidding. I mean, why would you do that? That sounds like there's something fishy going on as to you don't want some of the houses in that district. Now, maybe one of the people in those houses might want to run for office, but we don't want to let them, so we want to isolate them out of the district? Is that the reason? I mean, that's the only reason I can think of. And I happen to know, yeah, I believe somebody wanted to run it, that you cut off the house. I mean, this is not the way we're supposed to work. We're supposed to be open. You're supposed to have public hearings. The residents are supposed to be allowed to speak up. Instead, you can't say Mike and you're going to throw me out of the meeting? Seriously? People were talking behind me. You didn't say a word. But right away I said Mike and I'm going to throw you out of the meeting. Well, you know, fine. If that's what you have to do, throw me out of the meeting. You know, just like the shanty shacks, they don't want me back there. That's fine, you know, when it says...
Thank you, Ms. Staley. You're out of time.
Thank you.
Is anyone else who'd like to address the issue on the public hearing?
Bernadette Mayer, District 5. I think some very, very good public comments were made in this meeting. I think they're specifically with having these multiple voting places, and you can't keep certain districts together on, as was said. And I also think that a lot of the comments that Ms. Jocelyn made were very, very relevant as far as that subdivision needing to stay in one district because they're dealing with Limestone County, Madison City. They've got some specific drainage issues with new properties around their areas, wetlands, everything else that's going on like that. I don't think that the council should be ready to vote on this tonight. I think it should be looked at again and for the specific comments that were made. And I do think that some effort should be made towards a racial district, if that's possible, the minority district in the middle of town. And I do think that a lot of good work has been done on this, and on the surface it looks fine, but again, there's a lot of details that really need to be looked at. And like I said, Jocelyn's subdivision is one, and also in one way, I think, okay, the people in the council, you know, want to stay in their same districts because they probably want to run again in 2025. But that shouldn't be a major consideration. I think the many other things can be, and to see if they do fit in with the district. So there's just a lot of public concern, I think, on this. And I do think that the people do have a right to have this be really thoroughly, properly done so that there's people within certain subdivisions aren't confused which polling place they need to go to, because it differs from, you know, the person that's on their same street, for instance, you know, in their same subdivision. So I do think that there's a lot of detail that can be done and should be done, and the points here tonight, I think, make it reasonable to reconsider these and have a vote at another time, and possibly a refinement of this Plan 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayer. And just for a point of clarification, we're not voting on this tonight. We're having a public hearing. We're having one. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on the redistricting proposal? Seeing none, we will close public hearings, and I'd like to offer the opportunity for council, if anyone has any questions for Mr. Slaughter or Mary Beth, if you want to add anything.
One thing I'd like to mention just real quick off the bat is that it's not just one subdivision that's been divided. There have been several subdivisions that have been divided. In an ideal world, you know, it would be exact and refined, and every number would be you know, exactly the same. We had a meeting about this, and I requested that Park Meadow stay together for a specific situation, that it's a much older population there and more challenging for them, and I was very grateful that Mr. Slaughter was able to balance it out. It's just very difficult, the city of our size, to, you know, have it street by street, and I just wanted to address that we're not singling out any one subdivision. John subdivision, I think, is also, that one just north of yours is also divided, and you can say which one it is. I'm not.
Buckingham.
Yeah, Buckingham is also divided, so the point I'm trying to make is we're not singling anybody out.
And I just wanted to clarify, this is I believe the fourth meeting that we've had on redistricting. As was mentioned, there was a meeting initially in July, and our consultants presented the fact that the city was out of balance, exceeding that 10% at about 70%. They then proceeded to go ahead and prepare plans. They brought the plans to you, got public comment. We had an additional meeting in which the consultant was here with their laptop, as Mr. Slaughter was indicating. And the last meeting that you had, Plan 3 was presented. And so this is not the first time that this plan has been presented to the public. It's not been changed since the last time it came to the public. And yes, you're right that just the way the math works out, there are a number of subdivisions throughout the city that are split between districts. And it's unfortunate, I suppose. But I did want to point out, in terms of polling, there isn't a requirement that there be a polling place in each district. So it may work out that even though a subdivision is split between districts, they're all going to go to the same polling place anyway. You know, that has yet to be determined. So I don't think that is going to have any real bearing on where people are going to be voting, just once the clerk is able to secure polling places. So I just wanted to clarify for the record, this is not the first time everybody's seeing this exhibit, and again, we've had many meetings beyond 2 that were just mentioned. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Slaughter? Or I have one follow-up on this issue of splitting neighborhoods, because we've been through 3 maps now, and each time we've asked you to draw a line or put one neighborhood back together, then it had a domino effect. And so there was another one. And I think I asked this question at our last work session. There doesn't seem to be a way that we can draw a map that every neighborhood stays completely together, because you're using blocks.
Right, and I hate to use the word impossible, so I'll use practically impossible, but I don't think we could, in reality, avoid splitting neighborhoods in a city as large as the city of Madison. And this is very common. I've been doing redistricting for over 30 years for many, many cities and towns. It is very common for this to happen. And you can look at it on one side. It just depends on how you look at it. Obviously, that if it wasn't split, you've got one voice. But if it is split, you have 2 voices on the council if you have a split subdivision. So it's just practically impossible to avoid splitting subdivision. We can try the best that we can, and we've done that here. But it's almost impossible to do that.
Okay, Mr. Slaughter, there was one allegation made during public hearings that we were trying to draw a district to move somebody out so that they couldn't run for office. Have you and I had any communication, or have you had communication with any member of this council asking you to change a line at any point in this process, except for the public hearings where we've been, I think Councilmember Denzine was not pleased with the first map, and you sort of adjusted that, but that was in a public setting.
Right, absolutely not. This redistricting is for the one person, one vote principle with an impact, taking in mind the impact on the minority voting strength. It is not to block anyone from voting, being elected, or anything like that. We do, as in any city, as I've done, this will be the 3rd time for the city of Madison, start with the benchmark plan, which are your current council districts, and work from those. It's always been that. It's always been that. And so we are aware of your current council districts, where each of you that were elected by the citizens, you all were elected by the citizens, and where you all live, and make modifications from there, to have a balance. So there's nothing here I've never been asked. If I had, I would not do it, but I can assure you I haven't been asked to do any redistricting that would disadvantage anyone in any way, period.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
All right. I got a question. This is the first time I've ever heard of it. I don't even know if this goes with the law or not, but I'm going to ask, and rule number 1, never ask a question if you don't know the answer, so I'm going to violate that rule. But majority, minority, would that not violate the act in which you're trying to comply with for one vote, equal representation, and equal demographics across the board?
And let me answer that
just
this way, as a planning consultant, not as an attorney or representing the Department of Justice, but let's just assume if we had a majority minority ward that existed now, which we don't, but let's just assume that we had that majority minority ward, and then we came in and split that up to where that majority went away, then that would be causing some problems, but that does not exist. A lot of the minority population in the city of Madison is not really concentrated. You do have some, but the majority of it is distributed throughout the city, which makes it more of a challenge to create that majority minority ward. So believe me, if that was possible for us to do that, certainly I would have brought that to your attention. But we have looked at where the minority population is located, how it's distributed, and with the low percentage, it would be difficult to do that. Now, we have kept in mind, and some of the black percentages did go down in some wards, but they also went up in other wards. So maybe it went down in Ward 1 or 2, but it also went up in other wards. So we're well aware of how it impacts the minority voting strength overall.
Okay. And can you help elaborate a little bit as to why one of the rules is you try to keep council in the same current and what the future rezoning is?
Yes, and because we start with the current, the way you define the benchmark plan is you take the current election districts, which every one of you reside in your own district, stating the obvious. There's not 2 in one district at all. Every one of you were elected at the last election in your district. That's what we start with to come up with the benchmark plan. That's not my rules. That's not your rules. That comes straight from the Department of Justice in developing the benchmark plan. Then we determine if we're out of balance then and start shifting those current election districts till we reach a balanced state. We like to keep every one of you in your own district because, again, you were elected by the people. I don't want to be one that would take you out, because if I put District 6 and District 7 all in one district, we're going to have to automatically have a special election. One of them's gone and somebody else is going to be elected. And I should not create that. If we can balance it with your current election districts and keep everyone in their separate council districts, that is our number 1 goal.
Councilperson Seifert, I have an additional point I wanted to point out. The state law, Alabama Code Section 1143D-16(3), specifically requires that no term of an incumbent member of the council shall be shortened because of any redistricting. So that's another one requirement from the state that requires us to work within those boundaries.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I've got.
Any other questions for Mr. Slaughter? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will leave the maps, the large maps, just in case y'all need them. We've emailed to Mary Beth a copy of the PowerPoint presentation and all. And so certainly if any other questions come up, you all have my number. I know Mary Beth knows very well how to get in touch with me. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be of assistance to the city of Madison once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all of your work. All right, department reports, planning.
Good evening. The first item is proposed ordinance number 2023-313, and this would be to adopt the new legal descriptions for the council districts as was presented. This is just a first reading. We put this on the agenda in the event that you wanted to do the first reading, but you certainly do not need to, but it's here, and if you keep the first reading on, then you would be acting on the proposed district boundaries for Plan 3 at your next meeting.
Okay. I think that was the plan and with the schedule.
All right. Your next item is resolution number 2023-318-R. This is to set a public hearing to rezone a approximately 1 acre property. You can see it shown there on the PowerPoint. It's located at 312 Palmer. From M2 to M1, there's an existing structure there. The Planning Commission and staff are supporting this, and the public hearing would be set for November 13th.
Is the existing structure a home or?
It's a business. So it's currently zoned M2, which is our industrial zone, our most intensive industrial zone. This would be down zoning it to M1, which is our restricted industrial zone.
Perfect. Thank you.
Your next item is resolution number 2023-320-R. This is also to set a public hearing, and this is for the rezoning of approximately 5.5 acres on Pension Road from agriculture to, from Pension Row, from agriculture to R1B. Again, this public hearing would be set for November 13th. You can see the area demarcated on the map. It's sandwiched between residential homes on the south and to the north, and on the east side there's industrial on the west. Planning Commission and staff are recommending this rezoning, and again, your public hearing would be on November 13th.
Okay. Do we need to go ahead and move to set the public hearing?
Yes. Did you vote on the last one? I'm sorry.
Let's go back.
I zipped right through.
All right, let's go to back.
Sorry about that.
Item B, resolution number 2023-318-R, setting a public hearing.
Make a motion to set the public hearing for November 13th.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Roblesky.
Aye.
Councilmember Powell.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears. Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine. Aye. Councilmember Seifert.
And the motion passes. Next, we've got resolution number 2023-320-R, setting a public hearing also for November 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Make a motion to set that public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Ready for a vote?
Councilmember Roblesky.
Aye.
Councilmember Powell.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears. Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine. Aye. Councilmember Seifert.
And the motion passes. Okay.
All right.
But before you zip to item D, I just wanted to ask for the, and I know it's just the first reading, for the 5.5 acres, can you tell us what kind of homes are going to be there? Are they going to be single-family homes, townhomes?
Yeah. So the proposed R1B zoning only allows for single-family homes. It's a minimum 15,000 square foot lots. On this particular property, the applicant is indicating anywhere from 5 to 10 homes for the 5.5 acres.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Your next item is resolution number 2023-322-R. This is also to set a public hearing. This is to change the text of the zoning ordinance as it pertains to the urban center district to allow for medical offices without a restriction, and to also allow for child care centers. The public hearing would be on November 13th.
Make a motion to set the public hearing for November 13th.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Ready for a vote?
Councilmember Roblesky.
Aye.
Councilmember Powell.
Aye.
Council President Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears. Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine. Aye. Councilmember Spears.
Aye.
Seifert. Sorry.
Okay, and that motion passes. And then Mary
I've
Beth,
gone by many worse things.
in terms of public hearings, we did have a public hearing we initially were scheduling for this evening, but we are moving it to October 23rd.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's resolution number 2023-275-R, so we will hear that public hearing at the next council meeting.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now
All right.
you're on E.
Yes. Proposed ordinance number 2023-314. This is to amend Chapter 8 of the city's code to establish regulations and an appeal process for mural applications. You had your first reading at your last meeting, so we're asking for your approval this evening. As you know, we've had multiple work sessions. This is to allow for murals in select areas of the city, specifically in the B1 zoning area, which constitutes mostly downtown, in the urban center district, and in the commercial areas of our T&D district, which there's a portion of that in town Madison and also in the village of Oakland Springs. We've had a lot of input on the ordinance. We're proposing the ordinance as last was presented in a public meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any questions for Mary Beth?
I will say, I've seen this actually being applied now, down in, what I would call the loveliest village in the Plains, in Auburn. But, they're doing it down there, and I've talked with some of the folks that work for the city, and it's actually, the way they're applying it is very, very nice. So it's kind of excited to see this come, so, thank you.
Some would dispute that, and it'd be interesting to have an Alabama mural down there, so.
Now, we can't defame the city that way.
You also can't regulate what goes in, so.
Put an Auburn one right next to it, that's all it's got to do.
Mary Beth, get control.
Yeah, I think we're going to put up a Georgia Tech mural. Just
Okay, I think we're ready for a vote.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears? Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
The motion passes.
And the last planning item is proposed ordinance number 2023-315, and this is to amend Chapter 28 of the code to establish a mural advisory board. The board would have 5 members. It would be appointed by the mayor and city council. And we do have staggered terms, which is one of the items that you requested.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions?
Just one quick question. So if there are 5 members and there's 1 mayor and 7 council members, do we just come together at a work session and people will apply and we'll just discuss in general? Is that what you're envisioning?
Yes, I think you'll all work together to kind of figure out, I'm sure that there may be people who are interested. We had also talked about the fact that different civic groups might suggest individuals that might be good members, and you can arm wrestle for it.
You may want to secretly see what district we want to move them into first.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So is someone from the Historic Review Board, will they be on this?
No.
Unless they apply, they could, or...
They could,
Yeah.
yes.
It would be
that
under
would be,
consideration.
it would be. For murals that are proposed in the historic district, the murals would go first to the Mural Advisory Board to get a certificate of approval, and then they would still have to go to the Historic Commission to get a certificate of appropriateness. So it would be a bit redundant to have that individual serving on both, but you could choose to do that if you wanted.
But it does get reviewed by the Historic Review.
In the historic district, it would have to go to the Historic Preservation Commission, yes.
How is it being decided which position gets 2 years, which ones get 4?
The council and mayor will come to that when you appoint people. It's sort of an organic process that amazingly works itself out. Yeah. And you may have some individuals who really only want to be on for a 2-year period. They don't want to commit longer, and so it really, it's usually not a major conflict.
Okay. When would they start opening up people to put in applications?
So this will get codified, and then we'll work through the mayor's office and with civic groups to kind of put the word out that the board needs to be populated. So I would expect that will happen, towards the end of this month.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you ready for a vote?
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears? Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mary Beth. Public Works.
Ken asked me to speak to these 2 items that are under Public Works. The first one being proposed ordinance number 2023-164. This is amending the ground regulations for cleaning, restoring headstones in the City of Madison municipal cemeteries, and this is the first reading.
Okay, I'm going to open this up for some comments because I know we have council members who want to share some thoughts.
Yes.
First reading.
Yes, and I will say this is born out of the cemetery committee, so we have been discussing this for several months. And just to set aside a couple of concerns, somebody had mentioned that access to the cemetery was going to be needed, and that's not true. What we're doing is we're following the Alabama Historic Commission guidelines on how to clean a tombstone, and they have very specific regulations. They don't want people to go in with a pressure washer. They don't want people to use bleach or other toxic materials. So what we're doing is we're following their guidelines. If somebody like Mr. Rankin or Mr. Johnson want to come and do some work on a tombstone, they have a Alabama Historic Commission form to fill out, which basically just says their name and when they're going to do it and what materials they're going to use, so that when our public works guys are there mowing and they see something happening, they're going to know it's been approved. So it's not like Montgomery's going to have to approve it. We're just following the Alabama Historic Commission guidelines on what they say is the best way to preserve these tombstones, whether they were interred last week or we have some that are 200 years, well, maybe not 200 years old, but 150 years old. So that's all it is it's following those guidelines. Anybody who wants to come into the cemetery to see their ancestors or their immediate family members, of course, is welcome to do it. What we're doing is we're asking people to not take tombstones to their home or off-site without asking permission. And Brian, can you kind of elaborate on what I've said?
Sure, absolutely. There were some comments about the city can do what it wants to. Why are we ceding this to Montgomery? It is my legal opinion, after looking at Alabama Code Section 13A-7-23-1, and I'm holding the 2021 version of this, the most updated version of it. It creates authority in the Alabama Historical Commission, and it says, and I'll just read it very quickly, to provide for the lawful preservation, investigation, restoration, or relocation, and it says human remains, and then it goes on to say, or funerary objects, and that they shall, mandatory, promulgate rules and regulations for the issuance of a permit, and may issue a permit to those persons accompanying who seek to restore, preserve, relocate. This provision preempts us from being able to pass something different that says something different. I've looked at this. This is the way that Huntsville looks at this. I talked to the people at the Historic Commission, and they believe they have the authority for everyone to fill an application out, even if you are using soap, which surprised me. So that is where my research leaves it. So what we put together upon the request of the committee was just simply put something in our ordinance so that somebody wanting some guidance as to what to do would be able to look at our ordinance and know that there is a form process with the state, that whatever form has to be filled out, sent to the state, can be sent as a courtesy copy over to Mr. Kent Smith so that he knows what's going on. And then we basically just provide them with knowledge that there is a process for them to go by, and also reference the website where we have the cleaning guidelines that the state agency has for it. So whether council decides to pass this amendment, all those regulations still remain as far as having to fill this form out, et cetera. Now, whether the Historic Commission is in fact investigating, I don't know. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. And whether or not they would take any action if you didn't fill out a form, I can't speak to. But they do, on the books, have this authority, and that's why we were asked to insert this into the ordinance, just so that people, well-meaning people knew what to do rather than just going out there and start cleaning things with bleach or, God forbid, pressure washer and destroying an irreplaceable stone.
Right. And there are additional issues addressed as well, like the laying of wreaths. If the Boy Scouts want to lay wreaths, Veterans Day is coming up, they're going to let us know when they're going to lay the wreaths and when they're going to pick the wreaths up. And again, it's a communication source for Kent, so his guys know, okay, Veterans Day is the 11th, they're going to lay the wreaths on the 9th. We need to mow on the 8th, so we're not mowing up all the wreaths that have been placed on the grass, right? So it's really an opportunity for Public Works to know who's going to be in the cemetery. We're never banning anybody for the cemetery. We're wanting some communication between the American Legion, when they're going to go and put flags out. Well, the 4th of July, but they're not putting the flags out on the 4th of July. They're putting them on the 2nd of July, and they're picking them up on the 6th of July, so we need to mow on the 1st of July. And, hey, it's the 10th of July, and the flags haven't been picked up. Who's our contact for that? Oh, we need to let them know, hey, you know, come and pick up the flag. So really, this was passed or requested by the cemetery committee. It's recommended by the cemetery committee. We've had discussions, I think, since May. And again, it just comes down to communication so that Kent knows who's going to be there, what they're doing. If a U-Haul pulls up and they're taking a bunch of tombstones, hey, what's going on? Have you filled out your form? I haven't gotten anything. In addition to the form going to Public Works, a copy will be with Lisa, so that she's also aware. So it's going to be online. They can fill it out. We're coming. We're putting out wreaths. This is the day we're putting them out. This is the day we're picking it up. And that way Public Works knows what's going on.
And the only thing that I would add is there's a provision here that makes it a Class A misdemeanor for removing these stones, and it gives you a safe harbor if you have one of these applications that you have received from the state. So basically, someone could unintentionally remove a stone, do something with the stone, try to restore the stone, and not realize that if they just gone through this application process, they would have had a safe harbor to any sort of, what's on the books as far as a Class A misdemeanor.
Okay, any other comments?
I'll let everybody else comment because I've kind of commented a little bit. I mean, are we really writing an ordinance to stop a volunteer from doing something? I mean, seriously? So you guys go ahead. I mean.
So is this form just to go to Montgomery? Is there a reason? Is it just to stay here? Is it just so there's a form? I'm trying to understand exactly what authority is necessary here.
Well, the Alabama Historic Commission has basically, they're enabled to provide for, they may promulgate rules, regulations for the issuance of a permit. And as pursuant to that authority, they have put together an application that apparently has 32 lines. It's lengthy. And they require people to fill that out, return it back to them, and you can only proceed with any restoration or removal or changes to the headstone if it's historic over 75 years, if you are approved by the commission. So that's the process that they have now in the books.
And we're not requiring that. We're not sending the form to Montgomery, right?
No. We're just asking for a courtesy copy.
We're using that form that the Alabama Historic Commission has said, these are the materials that you should use. You should not dig up any bodies, things like that. I mean, that's literally in there. I've forgotten the...
Has anybody done that?
Yes, actually.
Somebody dug up a body.
They went and, yes, they buried a child late at night in the cemetery. Yeah. So yes, that did happen, and you can come to the cemetery committee and hear the story if you'd like. I don't really want to share it, but again, it just goes back to communication. We're not sending the form. We're using the form that the Alabama Historic Commission has already said, this is who's doing the work, this is the work they're going to do, these are the materials that are authorized. You don't use palm olive, you use a specific material called D2, which is apparently like $100 a gallon, so that because those materials have preserved the tombstones. If you go out to the cemetery, it's a beautiful time of year to go out there and you look at the old tombstones and you see those pock marks. If you know what I'm talking about, how it's not, it almost looks like the popcorn ceilings. That's because the improper material has been used. We're just having a form so that people know this is what we're going to do. These are the materials you can use.
What problem are we trying to solve?
Good question.
The destruction of tombstones.
No. What I keep hearing is communication.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like the problem we're trying to solve.
Right.
So my question is, has the cemetery committee and, I'm sorry, I know you said the Historical Society? All right, I know it's been called hysterical sometimes. Yes, ma'am. But have you guys, gotten in a room and talked?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is apparent that has not happened.
The gentleman came to the cemetery committee meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. Mr. Johnson and Mr. Rankin were there, and both spoke.
So here's my point. Communication.
You're shaking your head, Mr. Rankin. Were you not at the meeting? I mean, not Mr. Rankin, Mr. Johnson? Okay.
All right. So I guess my point is this, is communication is not hearing somebody. Communication is something coming out of my mouth, you receiving it, understanding what I'm saying, and us having a dialogue. That has not occurred because this is having to come to a city council meeting, and we're basically right now having like an argument between two neighbors that really needs to be solved between the two neighbors and let that happen. At this point, this is ridiculous that this is having to come before a city council meeting. We have some volunteers that are trying to be respectful. I understand we have guidelines from the city, but what I'm hearing is, hey, we need about 5 things and we could make this very easy. Let us know what you're cleaning. Mm-hmm. What are we cleaning with? Yeah, we got some regulations here and there. We're making this freaking complicated when it doesn't need to be. And filling out a 32-line state form. I'd go home too. That's ridiculous. It is plumb ridiculous.
I don't think it's a 32-page form, though.
32 lines.
Oh.
I mean, for real?
It's a long form.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the format that it is in, I would not vote for it. I think you need to know this. I think your committee needs to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think John's point is well taken. There's got to be a way for us to maintain local control of our own cemeteries, make sure that it is being preserved and using whatever the best practices are in restoring. And I think we do need to get some people in a room where everybody's really happy with this process, and we're not there right now.
Sure.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Can I ask Mr. Johnson a question, or whoever's doing this? I'm assuming that he's the one that does all of the...
Sure. Mr. Johnson,
you come up to the podium, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you had any kind of training to put together headstones or clean headstones? Is there any kind of training out there that...
Yes, sir. I've not only have I looked at a lot of online stuff, but I attended a 2-day seminar in Pulaski, Tennessee, put on by I don't have the notes right now, but it's a national cemetery headstone conservatory group. And this 2-day seminar, we actually did restore headstones. They did some cleaning. They showed us the preferred way they do it in Arlington Cemetery, the materials that are accepted and acceptable and things that are not. But yes, I've had training.
Okay. Are you familiar with anyone on the cemetery committee, or maybe even you, that someone else has had some type of training other than what you've had? Or you?
I have not had any training at all. I don't know if Ms. Anderson has or not.
It's pretty much only been John Rankin and myself in the old cemetery south of the mill that's actually done any work there since 2004. There's been work before that the people tried to fix headstones in their best attempts. But no, as far as I know, I'm it.
Do you have anyone who's an apprentice that will take over your position if you decide that you don't want to fill out a 32-line?
No, I don't. No, sir.
Is there anyone that you think could volunteer for that?
Volunteers are hard to come by. So I think it would shut it down. I think that'd be the end of it. And I'd like to say that at that cemetery that we're working in, there's over a dozen headstones that need work. Some are in parts, some are laying down, some are radically leaning. They need work. And I'd be happy to walk the cemetery with you guys, show you what we've done and what needs to be done. And this ordinance, if you pass it, it's going to shut me. And John Rankin said he would also stop. We're not going to do this.
Okay. That's all the questions that I really have.
Okay. I just want to thank both Mr. Johnson and Mr. Rankin for your community service to honor those that have passed and to take care of their gravestones so others can come by and remember them. And I think what you're doing is a wonderful service.
Oh, thank you.
And I think if we can just figure out a simple something, we don't need a 32-line thing, just something that if somebody needs to be contacted, so Public Works is aware, something simple, I think this can be worked out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you.
Thank you so much.
It needs to be managed, no question.
Do you have a solution to this?
Actually, I do have a thing I ginned up. I'd be happy to share it with you. I brought it with me Can I,
That'd be great, and we'd forward it, if you could forward it to the cemetery committee and see what you're proposing, and maybe Mr. Kilgore, so that he can kind of,
That would be great.
the intermediary.
yes.
That'd be great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
very
your
much.
service. Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Rankin. Okay, Mr. Kilgore, we've got the first reading. Let's move to the item B.
Next, we have resolution number 2023-332-R. This is authorizing renewal of a billing agreement with Athens Utilities for garbage collection. What we've got here basically is we have a service fee that we have to pay Athens Utilities. That's not changed. It's 95 cents per resident. However, our rate with Republic Services, that increases 4% each year. So basically nothing really changes in the new agreement, but there will be a increase that we have by contract with Republic Service that will bring our limestone per resident cost from $14.16 up to $14.69, and that's entirely the change in the increase for Republic Services.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion, second by Shaw. Any discussion, questions? All right, ready for vote.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw,
Aye.
Council President Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears, Councilmember Denzine,
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
And the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Kilgore. And recreation is our last item.
Favorite person of the night.
Just so you know, Corey said they give you a bunch of questions about this.
We have them too.
Resolution number 2023-326R, authorizing the purchase of artificial turf for the Kids Kingdom project in the amount of $53,390.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any questions?
Just wondered if we had an opening date.
Not yet.
Okay.
And these
This year?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
and these are coming out of the department donation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ready for a vote.
Councilmember Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Council President Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears, Councilmember Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
And the motion passes. Are there any other announcements? Ready to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
You're adjourned. Thank you.